Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment if you want more chilling real crime stories just like this. Because once you hear what happened next, you won't believe it. The rain fell in thick sheets that night, pounding against the razor wire above cell block D like fists striking steel. It was 11:47 p.m. when the call came in. An inmate had collapsed in the recreation yard of the federal prison known simply as the Bastion, one of the most secure penitentiaries in the United States. Inside that compound's concrete walls, rumors whispered of brutality, of guards who looked the other way, and of a system so broken that even survival felt like a prize. Detective Marcus Hale stood outside the gate, water beading off his trench coat as he watched the perimeter lights flicker. He wasn't used to federal prisons calling him. His badge was city jurisdiction, but this case was different. Someone on the inside had contacted him anonymously, saying the death wasn't accidental. The caller had said 3 words that sent shivers down Marcus's spine. It's the food. The prisoner, a quiet man named Harold McKinney, had been found clutching a crumpled napkin in his hand. The napkin was stained, a cryptic scrawl bleeding across it, "They're feeding us death." As the medics wheeled his body away, one of them leaned in close and murmured something Marcus would never forget. "I've been in hospitals for years. I've never seen someone go down from starvation like this." Inside, the Bastion was a maze of cold hallways and echoing footsteps. Marcus met Warden Carter, a man with a sunken face and eyes that darted too quickly. Carter's voice was measured, but his hands trembled when he offered Marcus a cup of coffee. "We lost McKinney tonight," Carter said, avoiding eye contact. "Official cause, sudden collapse. We're cooperating fully." Detective Hale noticed the warden's office was cluttered with cafeteria menus, nutritional charts, and invoices from food suppliers, a mountain of paperwork for something as mundane as prison meals. Tucked beneath the stack was a single photo, a tray of food, so unappetizing it looked like a punishment. A pale scoop of mystery meat, limp vegetables, and a carton of milk. What were his last meals? Marcus asked. Carter hesitated. Standard federal fare. It's designed to meet nutritional guidelines. Marcus wasn't convinced. He remembered the caller's urgent voice. "There's something going on with the meals. People are getting sick." He asked to see the kitchen. The cafeteria was stark, rows of stainless steel counters, massive pots and pans that had never seen shine, and a small team of cooks moving through their tasks with robotic precision. The air smelled like boiled cabbage and old grease. Marcus watched as one of the cooks plated another tray, the same dull, repetitive meal he'd seen in the photo. "What's this?" Marcus asked. The cook didn't look up. "That's lunch." "Same as yesterday." Marcus watched as another inmate, a lanky young man with hollow eyes, slid a bag of ramen onto his tray. "Commissary," he whispered, eyes flicking to the guards. "Prison food? You eat this if you want to stay sane." Marcus snapped a mental picture. Commissary snacks had become currency here, not because inmates loved chips and noodles, but because the regular meals were so poor that men traded for anything with flavor or calories. Officers whispered about fights breaking out over packages, about men getting desperate. Then Marcus found the file no one wanted him to see: medical logs, inmate nutrition reports. The charts showed an alarming number of prisoners with severe weight loss, vitamin deficiencies, and repeated complaints of illness linked to meals. One report ended abruptly with the words, "Unable to continue, system malfunction." A guard passing by noticed Marcus holding the file. His face tightened. "That's internal," he said. "Nothing for outsiders." "But this is serious," Marcus said. "People are dying." The guard didn't answer. He turned and walked away, but as he did, Marcus saw a tiny folded note fall from his pocket. Marcus picked it up. On the note were 3 words written in shaky handwriting. "They're hiding something." Marcus's heart pounded. What was being hidden? Why had McKinney died? And how deep did this cover-up go? As thunder cracked overhead and the prison lights flickered again, Marcus realized this wasn't just a case about bad food, it was about something far darker, and someone inside those walls knew the truth. But before he could open the note and read the next line, a distant alarm screamed through the yard, and everything changed. Detective Marcus Hale's hand trembled slightly as he unfolded the note. The words, "They're hiding something," were all it contained, scrawled in hurried, uneven letters. It wasn't signed, but the weight of it was undeniable. Someone on the inside knew more than they were letting on, and it was dangerous enough to risk leaving a trail for an outsider to find. Marcus moved quickly down the dim hallway, past rows of barred cells, toward the administrative wing. Each step echoed in the stillness, the only sound punctuated by the occasional clang of metal doors and distant murmurs of prisoners. He had a growing sense of urgency, the kind that makes you feel every shadow is hiding eyes. Inside a small break room, he found a janitor quietly mopping the floor. The man's eyes flicked up nervously when Marcus approached. "You work here a long time?" Marcus asked. "Too long," the janitor muttered. "Seen things you wouldn't believe." He paused, glancing over his shoulder. "Food's only the surface. Some men, they don't make it to the dinner bell." Marcus leaned in, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" The janitor lowered his voice. "Look, I've cleaned up after fights. We've had inmates faint from hunger. Some start losing weight, but nobody asks why. Complaints go in, disappear. Reports get shredded. The system, it protects itself." Marcus scribbled a note. He needed hard evidence, not just whispers. The next morning, he returned under the guise of an internal inspection. In the kitchen, he spotted something unusual. A locked freezer at the far end of the room, its padlock scratched and worn. When he asked the head cook about it, the man hesitated. "That's for storage. Nothing you need to worry about." But Marcus's instincts screamed otherwise. He noted the serial number on the lock and moved on, pretending to check menus and trays. He watched as inmates shuffled in, trays in hand, each one resigned to the monotony of boiled chicken, limp vegetables, and unidentifiable meat. Some added hot sauce, others ignored it entirely. The camera mounted in the corner recorded everything, yet he knew nothing would make sense until he got inside that freezer. Later, Marcus interviewed another inmate, a wiry man named Elliot, who had been in solitary for over 6 months. Elliot's hands shook slightly as he spoke. He wasn't the first," Elliot said. "I watched 2 guys get sick from the meals. Nobody wanted to admit it, guards, medics, nobody. The food? It's like poison if you eat it every day. Some of us, we survive on what we can trade from Commissary. Chips, noodles, protein bars, anything." Marcus scribbled furiously. The reality was worse than he imagined. It wasn't just bland food, it was systematic neglect. The prison served meals that met nutritional guidelines on paper but left inmates malnourished and vulnerable. Every tray had a hidden danger: poor hygiene, expired ingredients, and in some cases, intentional cutting of calories to save money. Then came the twist that made his stomach turn. Elliot leaned closer, whispering, "Some of the meat, it's not even what they say it is. There's been talk about cuts from animals not fit for consumption. They've been experimenting, testing limits." Marcus felt a chill. He had been investigating fraud, neglect, maybe even accidental deaths, but now the line between negligence and intent blurred. Someone inside the bastion was using meals as a weapon. Hours later, as Marcus reviewed footage from the cafeteria cameras, he noticed something alarming. A guard, someone supposed to supervise, repeatedly moved trays away from certain inmates, not for discipline, but in patterns suggesting selective deprivation. One inmate, smaller, younger, barely able to carry the tray, always got the worst portion. Marcus's gut tightened. This wasn't random. It wasn't incompetence. Someone was deliberately choosing who got what and why. And then the alarm sounded. Not the usual bells, but a quiet, urgent chime in the administrative wing. Security cameras caught it. The padlock on the freezer Marcus had noted earlier had been tampered with. Footsteps ran past the hallways. Marcus raced toward the source. Inside the storage room, he found a small, hidden compartment behind stacked crates. It wasn't just spoiled food or missing supplies. In it were folders, medical records, meal logs, even surveillance notes documenting which inmates had suffered from malnutrition. But the final piece of evidence made Marcus's blood run cold. A detailed chart with names and numbers, and the words at the top, written in bold red: "Experimental subjects, do not release." Marcus stepped back, heart hammering. Whoever had orchestrated this was watching, controlling, and calculating. And then he heard the distant clatter of heavy boots, echoing from the hall outside. Someone knew he had discovered the truth. The freezer door rattled violently. Marcus realized, in that moment, that this investigation was no longer about uncovering negligence. It was about surviving the walls themselves, because inside the bastion, curiosity could be deadly. And as he prepared to open the next folder, a hand shot out from the shadows, grabbing the papers. The hand yanked the folders violently, and Marcus barely caught a glimpse of the figure before it vanished into the shadows of the freezer room. His pulse raced, alarms echoed faintly through the corridors as if the prison itself were warning him to back off. He grabbed the nearest clipboard and scanned the scattered papers. Each one was more damning than the last. Charts showing weight loss, illness, and mortality rates, tied directly to specific meals, specific inmates, and specific days. It wasn't just neglect. It was methodical, experimental, and someone inside the bastion had a list of people they wanted to control, starve, or punish without leaving obvious marks. Marcus's mind raced. Who would do this? The warden? Some rogue guards? Or someone higher up, pulling strings from behind the scenes? He turned toward the hallway and froze. There, in the dim glow of the emergency lights, stood a man in a maintenance jumpsuit, hunched, his eyes sharp and calculating. "You shouldn't be here," the man said softly, voice calm but edged with danger. "Some things in this prison are meant to stay buried." Marcus didn't flinch. "People are dying. That's not meant to stay buried. You know what they're doing." The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "It's survival. The system decides who survives. We just facilitate it." Marcus took a step back. The man advanced slowly, as if testing him. And then the first scream came, high-pitched, desperate. It echoed from the opposite end of the hall. An inmate, small and frail, fell to the ground convulsing. Marcus's stomach dropped. The man in the jumpsuit didn't move to help. Instead, he glanced at Marcus with cold amusement. "You see? This isn't chaos. It's order." Marcus realized this wasn't just a case anymore. He wasn't investigating a crime, he was inside one, trapped in the epicenter of it. The freezer folders, the charts, the experimental meals, it was all part of a cruel system, and whoever ran it had eyes everywhere. He ducked into a side corridor, shoving papers into his coat. Every step he took, he could hear heavy boots, the unmistakable sound of someone hunting him. He rounded a corner and spotted Elliot, the inmate who had warned him. "They know you have the evidence," Elliot hissed. "You need to get it out. If they catch you," his voice trailed off, but the implication was clear, death or worse. Marcus nodded, adrenaline surging. He had to act fast. He made his way to the surveillance room, dodging guards, slipping past cameras he knew would alert the system. There, he uploaded digital copies of the folders to a secure cloud account, each file time-stamped and backed up. Every chart, every record, every meal log, proof of a hidden, sinister operation inside one of America's most secure prisons. And then came the final twist. As Marcus turned to leave, he saw Warden Carter standing by the door, calm, composed, and utterly unafraid. "I suppose you've discovered the truth," Carter said, voice smooth. "Do you really think it's about food? Or about power?" Marcus swallowed. "Power. Control. Innocent men are dying." Carter shook his head, almost sadly. "They agreed to participate. Some wanted the notoriety. Well, they were expendable. This prison is a laboratory. Everything has a purpose." Marcus realized then that McKinney, Elliot, the frail inmates, even the janitor's warnings, it wasn't random negligence. It was a controlled system, and exposing it could destroy careers, ruin lives, and put his own neck on the line. He left the building with one thought: the world needed to see this. The folders, the photos, the evidence, someone had to know. 3 months later, news reports surfaced. The Bastion had conducted a routine audit. Several inmates had mysteriously been transferred or disappeared, and some guards quietly resigned. The public saw only redacted statements about improvements to nutrition programs. But Marcus knew the truth. The system had hidden the most damning evidence. And then another call came, the same anonymous voice from the beginning, only this time, calmer. You thought it was over? It's just begun. Somewhere inside the bastion, the operation continued. The prisoners, the charts, the experimental meals, all still in motion. And Marcus understood the harsh reality. In America's toughest federal prison, the battle wasn't just for survival. It was for life itself. If you thought this story was intense, remember, the walls have eyes, and the food is only the beginning. If this story shocked you and left you questioning what really happens behind these walls, don't stay in the dark. Hit subscribe now, give this video a like if it gripped you, and leave a comment telling us what part shocked you the most. Your next click could uncover the next dark secret.